While everyone's screaming about London's housing market collapsing, something bizarre just happened. The Mayor of London, in a closed-door meeting with City Hall officials, accidentally revealed the real reason the capital's property market is falling apart. And it's nothing like what you've heard on the news. See, the mainstream story is simple. Prices went too high, buyers disappeared, and interest rates crushed the market. But that's not what's actually happening. What's unfolding in London right now is a perfect storm that nobody saw coming. And the leaked details from that meeting expose a system collapsing from the inside out. So what's really happening? Why are Londoners being forced to sell their homes? And what does the mayor know that we don't? Let's start with the trigger that began this entire domino effect. London's population boom didn't slow down, it reversed. And the numbers are shocking. For decades, London was unstoppable. Every skyline crane, every packed tube carriage, every bidding war over a semi-detached in Zone 3 told the same story. People were flooding into the capital, and demand could never die, but that story just broke. According to new data from the Office for National Statistics, London lost more than 100,000 residents in 2024 alone. The sharpest population drop in over a decade. And this isn't just a blip. It's the start of a deeper migration shift that's already reshaping the housing market from the inside out. See, for years, the promise of London real estate was built on constant inflow: students, foreign investors, tech workers, and young professionals chasing salaries. Every one of them needed a flat. Every one of them added pressure to prices. But now, those same people are leaving. Families are relocating to Kent, Surrey, Essex, anywhere that isn't charging £2,000 per month for a one-bedroom flat. Young professionals are heading north to Manchester and Leeds, where they can actually afford to buy instead of rent forever. Even high-income earners are calling it quits, trading cramped terraces for detached homes in Hertfordshire or Cambridge. And this isn't just internal migration. Foreign demand, once London's secret weapon, is quietly collapsing. Data from Savills shows that international buyers, who made up nearly 40% of prime central London sales in 2019, have now fallen below 20%. New restrictions, tougher tax rules, and global political shifts have made London property less attractive to foreign investors. Chinese buyers, once dominant in luxury developments, have pulled back sharply. Middle Eastern investors are diverting money to Dubai. Even European buyers are favouring Paris and Lisbon, where transaction taxes are lower and yields higher. That drop in foreign appetite has created a silent void in the high-end segment, and when top-end demand weakens, it ripples downward, because the people selling million-pound homes are often the ones buying £600,000 homes, and so on down the chain. When the top slows, the entire ladder freezes. The irony? For years, Londoners blamed foreign investors for pricing them out. Now those same investors are gone, and prices are still falling. The truth is, demand hasn't just slowed, it's reversed. London's population has shrunk for 4 straight years, while commuter belt towns like Reading and Milton Keynes are hitting population highs. Even major employers are encouraging hybrid work, meaning fewer people need to live inside the capital at all. The entire foundation of London's housing boom, relentless inward migration, is cracking. And once that happens, the system built on it begins to wobble. Because when you take away the constant inflow of new buyers, landlords and tenants, all that's left is an over-leveraged market built on borrowed money. That's why agents across the city are whispering about what they call the silent outflow. Streets in outer boroughs like Barking, Lewisham and Enfield are seeing more for sale signs than at any time since 2008. Sellers are realising they're no longer competing with a flood of new arrivals. They're competing with each other. One London agent summed it up bluntly. We've gone from people begging to view, to begging someone to make an offer. But the most dangerous part isn't that people are leaving, it's that those who stay can't afford to hold on. Because as the exodus grows, another ticking time bomb is about to detonate, and it has nothing to do with migration or demand. It's hidden inside millions of London mortgages that are about to reset all at once. You bought your London home back in 2019 for £600,000. At the time, your bank offered you a 5-year fixed rate at 1.7%. It felt like free money. You told yourself, By the time this fix ends, my salary will be higher, my home will be worth more, and I'll refinance easily. That was the dream. But in 2025, that dream is turning into a nightmare. That same mortgage, now resetting at 5.8%, just doubled your monthly payment, and you're not alone. More than 1.6 million UK households are in the same boat, and a massive portion of them are in London, where loan sizes are biggest and debt-to-income ratios are stretched to the limit. A homeowner in Croydon with a £400,000 loan is now paying around £2,200 per month compared to £1,200 per month just a year ago. That's an extra £1,000 leaving their pocket every single month, and wages haven't moved. The average London salary rose less than 3% in the past year. Inflation ate that before it even hit your bank account. This is the part no one's talking about. London doesn't crash because of unemployment or oversupply. It crashes when middle-class households can't roll over their debt. And that's exactly what's happening. The Bank of England's base rate hikes ripped through the mortgage market like a silent shockwave. At first, everyone said, "Don't worry, most people are on fixed rates." But those fixed periods are now expiring, hundreds of thousands each month, and lenders are repricing aggressively. The cheap era of 1% mortgages is gone. Now, most homeowners are staring at 5% to 6% rates for the foreseeable future. Even worse, the affordability tests used to qualify borrowers back in 2018 assumed those people could handle 7% stress scenarios, but that was on paper. In reality, few households ever saved that buffer. After years of rising food prices, energy bills and transport costs, that cushion is gone. So what happens next? They sell. Mortgage brokers across London are quietly warning that the capital is about to face a forced seller wave. Not foreclosures, not yet, but voluntary exits before the cliff hits. Families calling their agents saying, "We need to list before our fix ends." They're trying to escape before the full reset crushes them. And when sellers flood the market at the same time, you don't get panic, you get paralysis. Buyers see the wave coming and they wait. Sellers keep listing, hoping to beat the next guy out the door. That's the textbook definition of a freeze, not a crash, but a slow bleed. The irony? The government's own relief schemes, designed to help homeowners stay afloat, are just delaying the inevitable. Temporary interest-only extensions, short-term payment holidays, and restructured deals only kick the problem down the road to 2026. And that's when the real pain begins. Even rental investors aren't immune. Buy-to-let landlords with variable rate mortgages saw repayments jump 60% to 80% in just a year. One landlord in Hackney told The Telegraph, "My mortgage went from £900 per month to £1,600 per month overnight. The rent covers nothing now. Thousands of small landlords are now selling up because renting no longer makes financial sense. When they sell, that adds even more supply and more competition for regular homeowners already trying to exit. Then there's the new build trap. Thousands of Londoners who bought flats off-plan between 2020 and 2022 are now completing with negative equity. They paid record prices during the post-lockdown boom, and by the time their mortgages kicked in, values had fallen 8 to 10%. Now, they owe more than their homes are worth. They can't refinance because the loan to value is too high, and they can't sell because they'd have to cover the shortfall in cash. So they're stuck, trapped in overpriced boxes with rising monthly payments and no way out. Some analysts call this the Great Reset. But the truth is, it's not a reset, it's a reckoning. A correction after 15 years of cheap money, reckless lending and blind faith that London prices could only ever go up. Here's what makes it worse. A market like London doesn't crash overnight, it freezes first. And once that freeze sets in, the slow pressure of debt does the rest. Homeowners start falling behind on utilities, skipping repairs, dipping into savings, anything to hold on a few more months until they can't. That's when the second domino falls. Taxes and regulation. Because while homeowners are drowning in higher mortgage payments, the government is quietly rewriting the rulebook on property ownership. And what's coming next will make holding onto a home even harder. Just when homeowners thought higher mortgage payments were their biggest problem, London hit them with something worse, a policy storm they never saw coming. Because while people are scraping together every last pound to stay afloat, the government has quietly been rewriting the rules of property ownership in Britain's most expensive city. And the result? It's driving even more people to sell. Let's start with the one word that makes every London homeowner's stomach drop: tax. In early 2025, reports leaked from the Treasury hinted at a plan to overhaul council tax bands, the first major update since the 1990s. Under the new framework, properties valued above £1.5 million could face double the council tax of ordinary homes. That's an extra £4,000 to £6,000 per year, just for owning a home that might not even feel luxury by London standards. And this isn't limited to Kensington or Mayfair. A semi-detached in Wandsworth or Ealing easily crosses that threshold now. Ordinary middle-class families are suddenly being taxed like oligarchs. Then came the stamp duty freeze and thaw game, policies that first boosted demand during lockdown, then trapped buyers when relief ended. For anyone buying or selling above FVE £100,000, the tax bill is brutal. On a £900,000 home, you're handing over nearly £36,000 in stamp duty, money you'll never see again. That alone can kill a sale before it even starts. Now add capital gains changes. For decades, property investors counted on generous relief when selling, but those days are over. Since 2024, the government slashed allowances from £12,300 to £3,000, with whispers of a total abolition by 2026. For second homeowners or buy-to-let landlords, that's the final nail. Sell now and pay. Wait, and you might pay even more later. The message is clear. London property is no longer a tax haven, it's a target. Even landlords once considered untouchable are being squeezed from every side. The mortgage interest relief cuts that started years ago now mean most small landlords pay tax on gross rent, not profit. Add higher interest rates, and many are effectively working for free. A landlord in Hackney broke it down simply. I used to make £500 profit per month on my flat. Now, after tax, I lose £200 per month, and the boiler just went. Thousands like him are rushing to sell before the next budget closes more loopholes, and every one of those landlord exits adds another for sale board on the street. But taxes aren't the only silent killer here. London is also facing a wave of new energy efficiency mandates. By 2028, every rental property must meet a minimum energy performance certificate (EPC) rating of C. That sounds green and progressive, until you look at the cost. Upgrading an old Victorian terrace to EPC C can cost between £15,000 and £25,000. For flats in pre-war conversions, it's even worse. New insulation, double glazing, rewiring, heat pump installation. Many landlords simply can't afford it, so they're listing now rather than spend a small fortune just to keep renting. Even homeowners who live in their properties aren't safe. A leaked briefing from City Hall warned that older homes could face resale penalties within the decade if they don't meet stricter energy standards. That means the value of character homes, the very ones London is famous for, could plummet unless they're retrofitted. Then there's inheritance tax, which hits harder in London than anywhere else. The threshold hasn't changed in years, still £325,000. Yet the average home in the capital sits well above £500,000. That means ordinary families are being taxed on inherited houses like they're luxury estates. A Southwark resident who lost her parents put it bluntly, "They worked their whole lives for this flat. Now I have to sell it just to pay the inheritance bill." The ripple effect is brutal. Rising taxes push owners to sell, more listings push prices down, falling prices scare buyers away, and the cycle feeds itself. And in the middle of all this, the Mayor's office reportedly admitted something astonishing during that closed-door meeting. "We've lost control of incentives. Every new policy we introduce makes it harder, not easier, to own in London." When your own government is warning that the system's incentives are broken, that's not a policy debate. That's an admission of collapse. Because it's not just about paying more, it's about trusting less. Londoners once believed property was the safest investment on earth. Now, every headline feels like another trap, another reason to wonder whether holding onto that house is worth it. And while tax policy is bleeding homeowners dry, something even more dangerous is spreading through the market. The very people who were supposed to keep the housing engine running, the buyers, are vanishing, not because they can't afford homes, but because they don't believe in the system anymore. Something strange is happening in London's housing market right now. It's not a crash, it's not a boom, it's something worse. Silence. Estate agents across the city describe it the same way. It's like the buyers disappeared overnight. Open houses that once had queues down the street now sit empty. Flats that used to sell in 48 hours now sit on the market for months. And even when buyers do show up, they're not offering anywhere near the asking price. So what happened? Why are buyers suddenly refusing to play the game that built London's housing empire? The answer starts with confidence. Or rather, the lack of it. For decades, buying in London wasn't about need. It was about belief. People believed prices would always rise. Buyers believed they could always sell to someone richer later. That belief made people borrow more, stretch harder, and push prices higher. But in 2025, that belief died. After 2 years of interest rate hikes, inflation shocks, and broken promises about temporary economic pain, Londoners no longer trust the system that told them property was a guaranteed win. And the numbers prove it. According to Zoopla, buyer demand across London is down 42% compared to last year. Rightmove reports that listings are up 18%, but completed sales are down nearly 30%. That means sellers are trying to unload homes faster than buyers are willing to take them, the classic setup for a freeze. Mortgage approvals have fallen to their lowest point since 2008. The average London property now takes 66 days to sell, up from just 28 days in 2021. In parts of Zone 4 and Zone 5, that number jumps past 100. Sellers are begging for offers, but buyers are sitting back with folded arms, watching prices slide. This isn't just about affordability, it's about psychology. Buyers aren't broke, they're waiting for prices to fall another 5%, 10%, maybe 20%. Waiting for mortgage rates to come down, waiting for the government to blink first. One agent in Islington put it best: everyone's waiting for everyone else to panic first. It's a standoff, and no one wants to make the first move. Even international buyers, once London's safety net, are gone. Currency swings, high taxes, and new transparency rules mean the overseas money that used to prop up luxury flats has vanished. A report by Knight Frank shows foreign purchases of prime London property dropped 45% in just 2 years. Developers who used to pre-sell entire towers to investors in Singapore or Dubai now can't fill half their units. The result? A ghost city of empty new builds and unsold flats. In Nine Elms, where penthouses once sold before completion, entire floors now sit vacant. In Canary Wharf, dozens of glass towers glow at night, but step inside and half the lights are off. These buildings were built for a class of buyers that no longer exists. And it's not just the rich walking away. First-time buyers, the foundation of every healthy housing market, are giving up entirely. The average deposit for a first-time buyer in London is now over £120,000. Even with help from family, few can pull that together. For every 10 renters who once dreamed of owning, 9 have stopped even looking. A 2025 Halifax survey found 63% of London renters under 35 say they've completely given up on buying a home. That's not just sad, that's fatal for the market. Because if new buyers aren't entering the system, the chain breaks. No first-time buyers means no one buys the next rung up, which means no one buys the larger homes, which means developers stop building new ones. The entire ecosystem freezes. And what happens when transactions freeze? You don't get visible chaos, you get quiet decay. The for sale signs gather dust. Developers delay projects, agents close offices. Homeowners stare at properties they can't sell and mortgages they can't refinance. It's not dramatic, what's a score? It's terminally slow. That's why economists are calling this phenomenon the buyer strike. It's not that buyers are gone, they've gone on strike. They're choosing not to play until the system bends in their favour. And that's exactly what terrifies policymakers. Because if you're a government that depends on property taxes, stamp duty and transaction fees, a frozen market is worse than a crash. A crash still moves money, a freeze kills it. Even the mayor's leaked comments from that City Hall meeting hint at panic. We don't have a crash problem, we have a liquidity problem. Buyers have lost faith in the system. And when confidence goes, regulation can't fix it. No tax cuts or incentives can restore belief once it's gone. But here's the dark twist. While ordinary buyers are stepping back, a new kind of buyer is quietly moving in on shot. Institutional money. Big funds, private equity firms and developers are preparing to scoop up discounted properties once the freeze reaches its peak. They're patient, they've got cash, and they know exactly what's coming. Because this standoff, this eerie stillness, always ends the same way. When enough homeowners give up, when prices fall just enough, when desperation sets in, that's when the vultures swoop. And this isn't speculation, it's already happening. Data from Land Registry shows bulk purchases by corporate landlords have risen 38% since mid-2024. Entire blocks of flats are being sold in single transactions, not to families, but to investment funds converting them into long-term rentals. The everyday buyer is gone, replaced by an algorithm that sees your neighbourhood as a spreadsheet. That's the quiet transfer of ownership happening across London right now, from the individual to the institution, from the homeowner to the hedge fund. And while buyers sit out and homeowners hold on, developers are facing a new crisis of their own, one that's about to expose how fragile London's construction industry really is. Because behind those cranes and glossy billboards, the city's biggest builders are in survival mode. And once they start pulling back, the entire market starts to unravel. London has always loved its cranes. For years, they were the skyline's heartbeat, the sign of a city that never stopped building, never stopped growing, never stopped believing that demand would outpace supply forever. But if you look up now, something feels different. The cranes are still there, but they're not moving. Developers who once bragged about selling out entire projects before the first brick was laid are suddenly quiet. And what's unfolding behind those silent construction sites is far more dangerous than most Londoners realise. Because the city isn't just facing a slowdown, it's facing a construction collapse. Let's rewind. Between 2014 and 2019, London was delivering an average of 38,000 new homes per year, still far short of what was needed, but enough to keep the illusion of progress alive. By 2025, that number has plunged below 20,000. In some boroughs, not a single new housing start has been recorded in months. The cause? A toxic cocktail of rising material costs, broken financing chains, and evaporating investor confidence. Steel prices have jumped over 30% since 2021. Timber, insulation and concrete are all up by double digits. Labour costs have surged too, not just because of inflation, but because thousands of construction workers left the UK after Brexit and never came back. And while costs went up, demand went down. Developers who used to pre-sell 70% of units before construction can now barely shift 20%. Banks see that and pull funding. No funding means projects stall. Stall projects scare off investors. Investors leave, and the cycle feeds itself. A death spiral in slow motion. In early 2025, Berkeley Group, one of London's largest developers, publicly warned that the capital's housing output is heading toward its lowest level in 16 years. They blamed high interest rates, restrictive planning laws, and falling buyer demand. But insiders tell a darker story. According to leaked emails from a major construction lender, some developers are intentionally delaying completions, holding unfinished buildings hostage until prices recover. They'd rather leave a half-built tower standing still than risk flooding the market with unsellable flats. That's not strategy, that's desperation. Meanwhile, the city's mid-sized developers, the ones who actually build affordable housing, are being wiped out. They operate on thin margins, relying on steady pre-sales and predictable borrowing costs. When those two vanish, they can't survive. Across Greater London, more than 60 small and mid-tier builders have filed for administration since 2023. Each one leaves behind empty lots, half-dug foundations and unpaid contractors. And what happens when those sites freeze? It ripples outward. Architects, electricians, transport planners, suppliers, entire local economies tied to development start collapsing. The dream of building our way out of the crisis dies with them. Even the government's own housing initiatives are breaking down. The Mayor's affordable housing programme, once aiming for 116,000 new homes, is years behind schedule. Of the homes promised, barely half have even started construction. In private, City Hall officials blame funding shortfalls and inflation pressures. But developers whisper something else: policy paralysis. Planning decisions that once took 6 months now take over 2 years. Councils overloaded with bureaucracy reject applications over parking ratios and facade designs, while the housing shortage worsens. And for developers who do get approval, the numbers simply don't work anymore. Higher material costs, bigger taxes, and stagnant selling prices mean every project is a gamble. One senior executive from a top construction firm told the Financial Times, "You can't build a £500,000 flat when it costs £480,000 to make it." So, what do they do instead? They stop selling and start hoarding. A quiet but radical shift is sweeping through London's property industry. Developers are turning away from selling to individuals altogether. They're converting projects into build-to-rent models, entire blocks owned by corporations, rented out for steady income instead of sold to families. To the public, it looks like more rental supply, but behind the scenes, it's a transfer of ownership from people to corporations. In 2022, fewer than 20% of new build flats in London were designated as rental stock. In 2025, that number is approaching 50%. That means half of London's new homes will never be owned by the people who live in them. They'll be owned by funds, pension companies, and private equity giants. The same institutions quietly preparing to scoop up distressed assets as smaller players collapse, and the mayor knows it. In that leaked City Hall meeting, he reportedly admitted, "Developers are withholding inventory. They're converting to rentals. They're protecting price floors. It's the only way to stop the spiral." But that protection comes at a price. Because when homes stop being built for ownership, it kills mobility. Fewer people can climb the ladder. Young Londoners can't buy, families can't upgrade, retirees can't downsize. The whole market locks up, frozen from every direction. And it's not just homes being affected. Commercial developers are in trouble too. London's office sector, once the pride of Canary Wharf and the city, is seeing record high vacancy rates. Remote work gutted demand for office space, and refinancing those skyscrapers at 6% interest has become a financial nightmare. Some developers are now trying to convert office towers into residential flats, but the costs and regulations make it nearly impossible. The result is thousands of empty square feet and billions in stranded assets, another ticking time bomb under London's economy. It's the same pattern everywhere you look. Projects half-built, financing pooled, builders collapsing, foreign investors gone, local buyers hiding. A city once addicted to growth is now paralysed by it. The last time London's construction sector froze like this was in 2008, and back then, the crash was global. This time, it's local. It's London-specific. And that makes it even harder to escape. Because when the people building the homes stop believing in the system, it doesn't matter how many people still want to buy. If there's nothing left to build, there's nothing left to sell. And this construction freeze doesn't just stall the economy, it signals something deeper. Because behind every stopped crane, every silent site, every empty tower, lies a truth no one wants to say out loud. London's housing market isn't crashing from the outside. It's imploding from within. And the next domino to fall, the one that decides whether the city recovers or collapses, isn't bricks, or cranes, or planning law. It's something far more fragile. It's trust. Because once homeowners, developers and buyers stop believing that property is safe, the entire system breaks. And according to those leaked notes from the mayor's meeting, that's already happening. So let's put it together. Migration has reversed. Mortgages are resetting, taxes are tightening, buyers have gone on strike, developers are stalling, and trust, the one thing holding the system together, is fading fast. That's why experts say millions of London homes may change hands before 2026, not because people want to sell, but because they have to. And the mayor knows it. The question now isn't if London's housing market will reset, it's how deep it will go before the next cycle begins. History proves one thing: every collapse sets up the next opportunity. So while the public panics, the smart money waits. But will you?